Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So today I am going to start exploring Natasha's newest palette, the I Need a Nude palette. I did not jump on the bandwagon initially because I thought that some of the shades seemed a bit repetitive from other palettes that I already own from her. But when I got a 15 off of 50 and a birthday offer, and I had some points to use up at Ulta, I figured I would give it a try. So as of when I'm filming this intro, I have not touched it, I have not tried it, I have not played with it, nothing. And I've kind of been staying away from reviews as well because I don't want to know if certain colors are problematic or if they're repeats. So if you are curious to find out more about the I Need a Nude palette, see comparisons to other palettes, see several looks, and hear my thoughts, then just keep watching. All right, so if you've been living under a rock, this is the newest palette from Natasha Denona. It is the I Need a Nude palette, which I believe is an extension from, I think, last year's holiday collection, which was like the I Need a Nude lips and like the face trio or something. But this is what the palette looks like. It's very similar to the retro palette, which I don't have anymore, which was the greens and the pinks and like the grays. That plastic kind of two-tone where like you can see a design underneath and it's flat on the top, so it's not like the leather packaging, it's the plastic. And this is one of the midi palettes, which is the lower price point and the smaller pan size. And I left my film on just so I'm not blinding you by showing you the palette. This is what it looks like inside. I got the very last one at Ulta when I was there. I think it sold out at Sephora and a couple other places, and Ulta still had some online and a few in different stores. I got the last one at my store. So I am curious. These are shades that I love. I do love putting like a dusty rose all over the lid, adding a little shimmer, maybe deepening it up with a brown, and I'm good to go. So let's start with swatches, and then we'll see comparisons with other palettes and see what we're working with. All right, I think I'm going to swatch ones that look similar next to each other. So I'm going to start off with these three. So we have Stone, Fender, and Mesh. Because that's what determines if I want to keep a palette, is are there repeats? So Stone, Fender, and Mesh. These two look very similar. Just one is slightly deeper than the other. And then I don't think that these two rose tones are the same, but I'm going to do Vogue and Whiff and Fair, just because they're the only mattes left. So Vogue, Whiff, Fair, and I'll throw in the dark brown as well, Silhouette. Okay, ready? We have Vogue. We have Whiff, which is definitely peachier. We have Fair, which is perfect for me because I like a brightening shade. And then we have the deepening shade, which is Silhouette, which looks almost black on here, but in the pan it looks brown. So it's an intensely dark brown. And then we have all the shimmers. So these were all the mattes in the palette. Now we have the shimmers, and I think I'm going to do these two because they look similar, and then these three because they look similar. We have Whisper. Ooh. We have Whisper and Sheen, which one clearly looks more cool tone and one looks warmer tone. Okay, so clearly different. So Whisper is definitely a cooler, icier tone, and Sheen is like a golden shade. And while we're at it, we have Ella, Travertine, Delilah, and Filigree. Then we have the other like beigey ones or brownie ones. So this one is Ella, a nice, just cool tone brown. We have Travertine, just like a lighter shade. Delilah, which looks super sparkly. Okay, it is, but still fairly similar. And then Filigree. See, like, this is what I mean. Do we need 4 of these shades in one palette? They're all very similar. And I feel like that's what Natasha's been doing with her last handful of palettes. There's so many repeat shades, or like shades that don't need to be in here when you could come up with something else. I come up with a fun pink in here. So that's where I am right now. All that we have left is Muse, which is, ooh, super, super chunky, and Mia, which looks like another pretty topper one. So we have Muse, which is that super, oh my, that is beautiful. And then Mia, which is like a more pinky topper shade, I would say. So judging from this palette, it's mostly a beigey brown palette with a pop of like a coral and like a peachy brown in it. This isn't as diverse as I was hoping it would be, but we will play with it. I'm not sure how much variety I'm going to be able to get with some beiges, a copper, and some shimmery bronzy shades. But that's why you guys came for this video. You want to know if it's worth buying or not. So stay tuned. These are all the mattes. And then shimmers. Okay, look one, let me show you what I did. First off, went in with Fair all over the lid. It does pull a little bit peachier on my skin tone. Then going in with Mesh. Then I went in with, I think I called this Fender this for first time. Tender. Clearly, I can't read. And then Muse, that super chunky one. Lid. Oh, so pretty. And then going in with a little angle brush, I'm going into Silhouette, that dark brown shade, as liner. Judging just based on this look, I do like this palette. This is a stunning eye look. But am I going to get much variety when I try this on day 2, 3, 4, etc.? That is to be determined. So look one, I like it so far. Now let's compare it to other palettes. Okay, first I'm going to compare this to a mini one that I have in my collection. It is the Ayana 5 pan, and my lid is broken, so I just have to be very careful with it. Here they are next to each other. This one has the deep brown shade that I would say is pretty comparable. It has a pretty like shimmery rose shade in the center and then like a tan. So I feel like it has maybe 3 shades that overlap from this palette to this palette. But if you don't love the pinky tones in here and you just want like a beigey shade, I'd say go with the 5 pan. If you like pink, this is the Love palette, which is mostly pinks and purples. I would say not a whole lot of overlap between these two, perhaps just the one pinky tone shade. There's really nothing else in this one that you would find in this new palette. One of my favorites, which I don't think exists anymore, is the Safari palette, which looks like this. So here they are next to each other. I would say Safari has like the peachy shade, it's got a pink, it's got a dark brown, but obviously there's no metallics or shimmers in the Safari. So I would say they're not very similar. Okay, this one is the Retro palette. The one I was referring to earlier with the plastic cover must have been the Retro Glam. That was the one I didn't love. This one is probably the most similar to this new palette because we have our tan here, our dark brown, some pink shimmers, some rosy shimmers. We've got like the gray brown there, the gray brown here, a sparkly pink shade. I would say these are the most similar, but this is actually one of my favorite palettes. So if you really like this one and just want to go more in the beigey direction, you might like this one, but I would say these are probably the most similar so far. Next, we have the Biba palette, which again is, I would say a little warmer, but you have a little bit of overlap. You have your tan shade in both. You have your deep brown shade in both. You've got like a pinky gold shade in both. But that's kind of where the comparison stops. There's one like bronzy shade down here, but it's like a warmer brown bronze. So a few overlapping shades, but this one's definitely warmer and also has more grays and blacks. This one doesn't have any blacks in it, other than the super deep brown shade that could probably pass as black. This is the other one I thought might be similar. This is the Glam palette. See, when I look at these, I get very similar vibes, only this one's just a bit darker. You get your, it's hard to hold both of these at the same time, guys. Okay, so here they are next to each other. We have our shimmery pink here. We've got a shimmery pink here. We've got like a beige tone here, beige tone here, light tan here, light tan here, darker brown, mid-tone brown, mid-tone brown. We have a brown metallic. We've got a brown metallic. We've got a gray brown metallic. We've got some gray brown metallics. We have a peach. This one has like a warm brown, but not exactly a peach. And then you've got the super sparkly shade here, which you could probably mimic with one of the other ones. So I would say these are also very similar. So if you have the Glam and the Retro, do you need the I Need a Nude palette? I'm not sure, unless you're just a really big fan of Natasha's formula, which I am. So that's another fairly similar one. I'm sorry if you can hear my stomach growling. I need to go eat lunch. And then finally, the My Dream palette, which is more purples and peaches and like a duochrome shade. I don't think there's a whole lot of similarity to these two, other than you have your peach and your peach. You have your mid-tone brown, your mid-tone brown. You have your dark brown and your dark brown. Otherwise, these are purple shimmers, warm peachy golds. So I would say these only have maybe like 3 shades that might slightly overlap. So when comparing all of them, I would say that these two are the most similar to the new palette. Could I get this look with the shades I already have? Yeah, I probably could have used this one in the crease from this palette. And I probably could have used this one in the outer corner. I probably could have come close to this shimmery color with maybe these, but they're just not as chunky. So it would have been a similar vibe, but not quite the same. Can you get similar looks from these two palettes than you can from the I Need a Nude? Certainly. You don't have to spend the money on the new palette just because it's the new thing. I feel like you could probably get by with those two if you already have them in your collection. Okay, so initial first impressions of the I Need a Nude palette. I like the colors. I like the way they blend. I really like this eye look. Would I say it's necessary right now? I don't know. I don't know. These two applied clearly differently on the lid, so there is enough shade variety between these two. Do I think we needed both of them? I don't know yet. I haven't played with this palette enough to know the range of shades in here. So this is look 1. I'll go ahead and film some more looks for you and share them with you. And then after trying this for a week or 2, I will let you know my final thoughts on this palette and if I think it is worth going out and getting, especially if you already have other Denona palettes in your collection. So stay tuned for more looks and final thoughts. I only used matte shadows today. The cream, the peach, and the beige. Okay guys, here is look number 3. I used this shade up here all over the lid and in the crease, and then I went in with the shade right below it, right here, all over the lid, and then I went in with the dark brown at the lash line. And that is it, 3 shadows and done. I like the look, but I feel like I'm not getting much variety from the looks. It's pretty much going to be like a grayish and brown or a grayish and peach look. I feel like that's kind of all the range you have with this palette. So day 3, and those are my thoughts. Okay guys, this is like the 4th time using the Denona I Need a Nude palette. And today I went in with the shade Fair all over my lid, and then the bottom sparkly shade. If I can open this one-handed, I can show you. So I went all over with Fair, and then I went in with this shade all over the lid for that just kind of like wet finish, and that was it. That's all I did, and I think this is really pretty, really easy, quick eye look. I'm still finding the color variety a little bit limiting, but here's another different look using this palette. Okay guys, so I'm sitting down to film the wrap up for my thoughts on the newest Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. As you guys can see from all the looks I've created, they are all a version of a sparkly grayish look. Again, I'm wearing this palette today, and on my lids I have Vogue, which is this shade all over the lid, a little bit of Wit in the crease, and then I think I went in with Muse, yeah, all over the lid. And then again, I just deepened up with this, and that seems to be all I can do with this palette. If I want like some warmth in the crease, it's got to be one of these two colors. If I want any depth at the lash line, it has to be this one. None of these others are dark enough to really create any depth. And if I want shimmer, we have like a grayish shimmer, a grayish shimmer, a grayish shimmer, a brownish shimmer. We've got this one, which is like a slightly peach shimmer, a more metallic peach shimmer, and then this one, which is like an icy pink shimmer, which I don't really use often because there really isn't any other pink in this palette. So do I think this is a bit of a redundant palette? I do, especially if you already have one of these palettes. The retro palette is mostly pinky reds and browns and some like gray brown tones. And then the Glam palette, which is this one, is all of your gray brown tones with a little bit of warmth and a little bit of pink. So if you want to lean more towards the gray and like warmer tones, I would go with this one. If you want to lean more towards the grayish with like more pinky tones, I would go with this one. If you have both of these, I feel like you can probably dupe most of the looks you're going to get from this palette. So I would say that this is another redundant palette with a lot of repeat shades, repeat looks, not a lot of versatility in what you're going to come up with using the shades in the palette. So would I say it's worth it if you have either of these? No. If you've been wanting these and you just want to buy one palette, then perhaps it's worth it for you. The formula, again, is amazing. The palettes are nice and sturdy. I like the brand. I like what she comes up with, but could there have been more variety in here? And that would have allowed more complex looks, more variety of looks. Yes, I feel like she could have switched out some of the shimmery gray shades for like a shimmery gold or a shimmery silver, or even like a green pink flip, something like that. So I feel like it still needs a little bit more variety. So for me, I'm going to say this one is a pass for me personally, just because I keep getting looks that all pretty much look the same no matter what shades I'm trying. So nice quality, good palette, high price point, but would I personally purchase this one? Knowing what I know now, I probably would not, just because, like I said, I do feel it's a bit redundant. So those are my thoughts. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, remember to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.